Good morning, all of you. We will be starting our session in next 2 minutes max. Till that time, there is a short announcement that has been posted in the WhatsApp group that is related to the short quiz that you all participants will be having at the end of this short-term course. So please go through it. Hey, Dr. Brijmohan, we can start, I guess.
Okay, yeah. Good morning, Dr. Kamlendra Awasthi sir. Are you? My voice is audible to you?
Yes, you're audible.
Sir, I'm Dr. Brijmohan Mulotia. Today I will assist during this session. Very warm good morning and welcome to all participants of this online short-term course. Today's session speaker is Dr. Kamlendra Awasthi. Dr. Kamlendra Awasthi earned his PhD degree from University of Rajasthan, Jaipur in 2007. He is an assistant professor in the Department of Physics and he is currently working as a head in Material Research Center at Malvi National Institute of Technology, Jaipur, India. He has worked at Nanoscience Center, Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur as research scientist and at Leibniz Institute of Polymer Research, Dresden, Germany as an Alexander von Humboldt Fellow. His main research area is soft materials with major focus on polymer nanofilters and nanostructure materials for photovoltaics, sensors, and nanofabrication applications. He has co-authored more than 80 publications and edited the special issue in various international journals such as Wiley, Elsevier, Springer. Recently, Dr. Awasthi has edited one book on nanostructured zinc oxide synthesis properties and applications in Elsevier. He is the organizer of a series of international conferences on soft materials held in every 2 years from 2014 onwards. Dr. Awasthi is the recipient of reputed fellowships such as Young Scientist 2008, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship 2009 by Humboldt Foundation, Germany, Inspire Faculty Award 2012 from the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, and Early Career Research Award in 2017 from SERB, New Delhi, India. So now I would like to hand over to Dr. Awasthi sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Brijmohan and Dr. Kunal for this kind invitation and introduction. So now I'm going to just start this presentation. Okay. Yes. So it is visible now?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to talk in this polymer nanofilters or polymer membranes, basically, and what are the challenges and what we did in last couple of years. So first part, I will try to focus the types of membrane and its characterization. And later on, I will go for this application part. So morning part is just, you can say, a fundamental part. And the evening part, I will focus on the application. Okay. So quickly, this is the outline of my presentation, is what is the membrane. And since I am using this gas separation part, so why we are interested in the gas separation. And in particularly gas separation, we are separating or purifying this hydrogen from other gases. So what is the interest in hydrogen and why hydrogen purification is needed. So I will try to cover in few slides this hydrogen separation part. Then the three major parts that I will discuss in my presentation. One, that will be the trackaged polymeric membranes. Second, the block copolymer nanotemplates. And the third is functionalized polymeric membranes. And then I will conclude. Okay. So if I say a membrane, so means a membrane just we can say like it is a selective barrier between two phases that may allow the movement of different species under the presence of driving force over the membrane. It may be liquid, it may be gas, and something else. And how we can like force one part from one side to another part. So these driving force may be the concentration gradient, pressure gradient, temperature, or electrical potential gradient over the membrane. So basically that will control the movement of one species into another. That may fast the process, that may slow the process. So these are the typically driving force that are being used for the membrane separation parts. So this biological membranes, or you can like cell membranes, so they also regulate what enters and leaves the cell, and they provide the protection and support, generally known as plasma membrane. So and just remember, these cell membranes, they are very selective. So they can allow only one type and can stop the others. So can we mimic the same properties in the synthetic membrane so that we can prepare a selective membrane for our application, that may be for like water purification, for the gas purification. So this is the one major motive who is working in membrane science, to prepare a highly permeable and highly selective membranes. Okay, so this is the historical perspective on the membrane transport that we found in the literature. So this is the first well-known or recorded experiment on membrane where a pig bladder has been used. So this famous scientist Knowledge, he performed the first non-recorded membrane experiment in 1748, and he used this pig bladder as a membrane. So he has used this two vessels, one that is the spirit of wine and another having water. So what is happening? Water permeated through the bladder faster than the wine. The volume vessel increased, where the amount of water that is diluted with wine on the other side of the membrane decreased. So means it again confirmed that this membrane basically nothing. This is a selective barrier between two phases, which allow the movement of different species under the presence of driving force. I already told in my first slide that these driving force may be concentration gradient, potential gradient, or pressure gradient. And the membrane structure, that may be the dense. Dense means there is no porosity, or microporous. Microporous means they have the pore size of micron order. They may be the asymmetric. Asymmetric means the porosity from top to bottom, that is not the same, or the pore structure within the membrane, that is not the same. They may be the composite. Composite means they are made of two types of polymers. So in this, or they can be made of some inorganic organic compound. So we can say them like composite, or this membrane can be fabricated on any support. Suppose if you have like a very thin layer, I can say like in order of 100 or 200 nanometer. So this cannot be used as a self support. So we cannot use like a membrane. One thing I want to clear here, generally I will talk the two terms. One, I say like membrane, and another word may be the thin film. So in broad sense, what is the difference between a membrane and a thin film? So generally when I talk a membrane, membranes means it is a self-supported. But when I talk a thin film, it means the film that is deposited or that needs a kind of support. Like in broad sense, you can say some film is deposited on glass or on silicon. So generally we used a thin film. So we can say membrane is a thin film, but generally we cannot say all thin film like a membrane. In broad sense, membrane is a self-supported film. But when your membrane is not self-supported, it is very thin, it means you need another kind of support on which you can coat your thin layer to make it composite membrane or a membrane support. Right? Sorry. So these are the types of membrane. Based on the structure, we can call them dense, we can call them microporous, asymmetric, composite, or membrane support. And membrane, basically they are two types in based on their structure, like isotropic membrane and the anisotropic membrane. So isotropic membrane are categorized in further three categories: microporous, pores having 0.01 to 10 micrometer diameter; dense non-porous, so it means there is no porosity or no holes. So here this driving force basically diffusion or the solubility. So I will show you some example on this dense and non-porous membrane too, and electrically charged microporous membrane. So these are the example of isotropic membranes. And another area is anisotropic, that is asymmetric. So here we have thin active layer supported on thicker porous layer. That may be the composite, and that another part may be ceramic, metal, or liquid membranes. So nowadays people are using this anisotropic membrane for this various application for gas separation and other ion separation. I will show you a few examples for anisotropic membrane too. Okay, so what are the membrane materials and the fabrication methods? So you can make this membrane from the polymers, metal membranes, ceramic membranes, liquid membranes. But my today lecture will be more focused on the polymers. And these already I discussed two types of membrane, isotropic and anisotropic. And this isotropic membrane can be made by the solution casting and melt extraction, trackist membrane, expanded film membrane, and anisotropic membrane made by this phase separation interfacial polymerization, solution coated composite membranes, and the plasma tokeization. So I will discuss this each methods in detail in my next slides. And these are the various membrane processes: microfiltration, ultrafiltration, reverse osmosis, RO membrane that are you're using for your water purification, gas separation, permeation, preparation, dialysis, electrolysis, liquid membrane. But I will show you maximum example related to the gas separation and the permeation, the work that I have carried out in couple of years. Okay, so how we can differentiate the different kind of this membrane technology? And we have the microfiltration, ultrafiltration, nanofiltration, and RO. So they are basically categorized on the basis of this porosity or the pore size. So two terms I will use in my presentation. One, I will say this porosity or the pore size. That means the size of pores in the membrane. And when I will say the pore density, means that is the number of pores in the polymeric membrane in a unit area. So if you see this microfilter, the pore size is too large. That's why we need the less operating pressure, that is around 30 psi. So by using this microfiltration membrane, we can use this clay, bacteria, virus, suspended solids. But if something is smaller, then we have to use the ultrafiltration membrane. And here you can see the pore size. And now pore size is 0.01 to 0.001 micrometer. And as soon as we are decreasing the porosity, the operating pressure is increasing. And here this you can see the operating pressure is 20 to 100 psi. But this kind of membrane that can remove the virus, proteins, starch, colloids, silica, organic dye. Why? Because the size of this material, these are either less or maybe somewhere equivalent to this porosity of this membrane. But again, this ultrafiltration, they cannot remove this sugar, pesticide, divalent anion because their size is less. So again, we need some less pore size membrane. So here you can see 0.001 to 0.0001 micrometer. Again, porosity is very less. And you can here see the operating pressure is too much large. And in case of RO, so less than 0.001, so means less than the nanometer size, and the operating pressure you can see this is 225 to 1000, and it can remove the monovalent side. What is the problem with the RO membranes? You have already seen in your homes, like after a particular times, this membrane filter has to removed because it is either choked or means covered by this salt or ions. So their pores are basically blocked and this membrane cannot be used further. So the company or the salesman, they come with a new filter and install, again, it can working. If you talk about this price of membrane, so as obvious, if you are going for the less porosity, the membrane cost is higher. Like if you compare the cost of microfilter and RO membrane, it is a huge difference. So again, we have like a challenge. Can we do something in this RO membrane or in microfiltration so that the price can be reduced? So can we do some engineering or some modification either in microfiltration or ultrafiltration or in nanofiltration so that they can work at par with the RO membrane and we can reduce the cost? So this is the one challenge with this membrane technology, to reduce the cost and to extend the life of membrane. How we can do it, we will discuss it later. Okay. So just I have discussed this in brief, and this is the some example, and you can see some membrane structure. This is this microfiltration membrane. Again, we already discussed. This is the typical pore size around 0.1 micron, and it can be used at very low pressure, remove bacteria and some large virus, but it cannot filter the small viruses, protein molecules, sugar and salt. And here you can see this detailed picture because this porosity, it is too much large. So everything like can be filtered, and this membrane is not selective. Okay, please remember again two words, selective and permeable. Permeable means this is the property to pass through the membrane, and selectivity means this is the property, like how we can say this is selective in reference to other. So basically this is a comparison of the permeability one reference to another. When I say selective, it means it is allowing a certain part and blocking the others. Or in broad sense, you can say selectivity, this is the ratio of permeabilities. Okay. This is ultrafiltration membrane. So here this pore size is reducing, comes to 0.01 microns, and it can be operated moderately low pressure, remove virus, protein, and other organic molecules, but it does not filter the lead, iron, chloride, ion, nitrates, nitrite, other charged particles. Then there is another possibility, like we can use the nanofiltration. So here we have the membrane porosity 0.001 micron. It can be used at moderate pressure. It removes toxic, unwanted bivalent ions with 2 or more charges, lead, iron, nickel, and mercury, but not the others, monovalent. And so we need this RO membrane. As I told, this is being operated at very high pressure, and only economical feasible large scale methods to remove salt from water. And so large plant is being used for the reverse osmosis or desalination water treatment plants near to some ocean. But this RO is not for everything, because this RO is the most costly filtration system, because pores are so small, big particles can clog them. And this is the problem called fouling. And this makes the filtration membrane unstable. So can we do something in a polymer or in some other kind of membrane that we can reduce the process of fouling, so that the membrane cost and life that can be increased? Okay, so this is like a first example. If we use a series of filtration, like we use microfilter, ultrafilter, nanofilter, then RO, so that can be just used for increasing the life of this RO membrane, because here we have like step filtration at every step. But again, the cost of this membrane and the process, this is going to be increased. So this is not a good solution for the membrane technology. So there is another couple of papers, they has been reported in the for the nanofiltration. What people have did, they have prepared the special properties of nano-sized particles. Special size means these nanoparticles can like attract one kind of impurity, and that impurity can be attached within the pore or on these nanoparticles, and it will not go during the filtration. So people are using this metal composite or nanoparticle based membrane for the various application. So what this nanomembrane can be designed in a layers in particular chemistry and specific purpose. They insert particles toxic to bacteria. They embedded tubes that pull water through and keep everything else out, signal to self-clean. And this is 1 to nanometer size pores create an electric field over the opening. This electric field is negative and repels negatively charged particles dissolved in the water. Okay. So now question comes, because everybody knows this is a polymer long chain molecules. So in normally synthetic membrane or in polymers, how it is possible that we have an electric field in the pores, and how we can control it? We will discuss during this pore size and porosity discussion. Okay, so this is just I have overviewed this membrane technology, what types of membrane and what are the problems. And this is the application part that I'm using. I'm using this gas separation with these kind of membranes. And particularly I'm using this hydrogen separation. Just for your reference, hydrogen gas molecule is the smallest, but the other means nitrogen, carbon dioxide, oxygen, they are not like very big in comparison to hydrogen. So gas separation part is relatively different than what we think about in liquid membranes or in waters. I will show you a couple of slides with this separation results. So why hydrogen separation? Because it is being used in plants and in petrochemical applications. So we are separating nitrogen from air, carbon dioxide and water removal from natural gases, organic vapor removal from air and nitrogen streams. And the most important part is the fuel cell. So at the moment, the most widely used membrane materials for gas separation are polymers. Why they are, I'm preferring, people are preferring these polymers over other kind of materials because they are low capital investment, low weight, and high process flexibility and high surface area. So if you see any hydrogen powered vehicle, so they emit only water, no pollution. So Germany, they are using car, and recently they have started few trains. So Japan is also using this hydrogen powered vehicle. So they do not have any pollution, but the cost of this hydrogen is too much. So can we like produce pure hydrogen for this application that makes feasible to use such kind of technology for all. And so I interest in hydrogen because if you see this fuel cell part, this is hydrogen powered car and this hydrogen powered train that is being used in Germany. So fuel cell conclusion means no pollution caused by burning fossil fuels. Water is the only byproduct, and that decreases dependence on foreign countries for the energy. They have stationary fuel cells, decentralized power grid, more efficient than diesel and gas engines, quicker than diesel and gas engines, lower operating temperature, and so on. But in fuel cell, the impurity in hydrogen is again a challenge. So can we pure the hydrogen before its application? So can we put some kind of membrane so that it allow only pure hydrogen and can block other kind of gases, so this fuel cell cost can be reduced. So this is the motive, and this is the mechanism for the transport through the membranes: bulk diffusion, diffusion, solution diffusion, dense membrane. And an ideal membrane, basically it should have high flux, high permeability, high selectivity, tolerance to all feed components, mechanical stability, ability to package in high surface area modules, excellent manufacturing reproducibility, and the low cost. And these are the various type of membranes: ceramic membranes, zeolite membranes, porous metallic membranes, composite membrane, and the trackist membranes. So I am going to show you a couple of examples of this membrane. Maybe, yes. Okay. So this is the mechanism that I have discussed, this three: bulk flow, diffusion, and solution diffusion. So here you can see these are two molecules, gas molecules, one small and other larger. So if you talk about this solution diffusion, means due to the solubility difference, only one kind of gas molecules, they are being separated from this membrane. When we talk about this molecular sieving, that is based on the size exclusion, it means one thing, please remember, I'm talking in the solution diffusion. This model is true for the dense membrane and where the pores are very small in comparison to the gas molecule. These two models, they are true for this porous membrane. When we talk about this porosity here, so it means the pore structure, this is too small that only one can pass through and other can be blocked. So this is based on the size exclusion, and another is this based on this mean free path. So means the pore size is too large, so every gas can pass through comfortably from it. And this is the upper side of gas feed, and this is the permeate side. Okay, so in I think the first two slides I discussed about this kinetic diameter. Please see this number. The kinetic diameter of hydrogen, this is 0.289, or you can say 2.89 angstrom. Carbon dioxide 3.3, nitrogen 3.64. So again, you can see there is not a large variation. This kinetic diameter almost similar. So this is a challenge for a material scientist, how we can separate hydrogen over other gases, because here you can see this kinetic diameter of the different gases. Okay, so we can make some membrane. I think discussed the slide, ideal membrane. Okay, so here you see the complete picture of this membrane technology. So this is the membrane materials. It may be biological or synthetic. Biological, I have discussed about this lungs and cell membranes. And this is the synthetic membrane. They may be organic polymers or the inorganic, or we can make a hybrid membrane by using this organic and inorganic both. Organic polymers, they are two types, glassy or rubbery, and inorganic membrane, they are basically ceramic, glass, metallic, and zeolite. Symmetric, asymmetric, composite, already I have discussed. And these are the process by which these membranes are being made: sintering, stretching, track etching, template leaching, sol gel process, solution coating, and the phase inversion. So in next 5 or 10 minutes, I will show you some these process details. And these two, solution coating and phase inversion, they are the popular techniques used for the membrane separation. Okay. So apart from these preparation techniques, we can also do some membrane modification or engineering in these earlier membranes to make them versatile or to make them more useful for this application based. What is the sintering process? Sintering process, it is compressing a powder consisting of particles of a given size and sintering at a high temperature. So what is happening there? Polymeric and inorganic membrane with outstanding chemical and thermal and mechanical stability, and sintering temperature depends on the material, polymers, metals, ceramic, carbon, and glasses. And pore size and distribution depends on the particle size and distribution, generally 0.1 to 10 micrometer. And this is like the structure, again you heat. So here they are interconnected, and you can say like these are the porosity that has been generated after this heat treatment. Another example is stretching. So stretching, basically this is extruded film perpendicular to the end crystalline orientation. But this process is only for the semi-crystalline polymers like PT, EE, PE, and PP. Rupture make to reproducible microchannels And here the porosity is 0.123 micrometer, and the porosity is very high. Please remember, porosity means number of the pores in a per unit area. And this is the phase inversion technique. Generally, we are using for making when composite films for this phase inversion or in block copolymer nanotemplates. So what is happening here? A polymer transformed in a controlled manner from a liquid to a solid state. Phase inversion covers different techniques. Like this is a concentrated solution of a polymer in a solvent. Through addition of a non-solvent, sometimes from the vapor phase. For example, preparing the asymmetric membranes. So basically, we a dense skin layer integrally bounded in a series with a thick porous substrate, same material in each layer, and this solidification initiated by transition from one liquid state into two liquid or liquid-liquid demixing and so on. So if you understand, like in a broad sense, and generally we get this polymer in solid form or in grains. So means we have to dissolve these polymers in the solvent. And again, you can pour this structure, or you can use this liquid state in your required thickness or required shape. So when you are transforming this liquid to solid state, so this process generally known as the phase inversion. So these are the various steps in the phase inversion techniques. Precipitation by the solvent evaporation. This is called the simple evaporation or coating. Another is precipitation from the vapor phase. And this is vapor phase may be the non-solvent or saturated solvent. Prepare porous without top layer. Another part is precipitation by controlled evaporation. So in this case, polymer dissolved in a mixture of solvent and skin layer. This is the thermal precipitation, means polymer solution is cooled to enable this phase separation, and then we can prepare the membrane with the skin layer. And another is immersion precipitation. And here what you see, like this is the support, and here you have coated your polymer solution. So there are two possibilities. One is non-solvent, another is solvent. So this polymer solution precipitation occurs because of the exchange of solvent and non-solvent. And this membrane structure results from a combination of mass transfer and the phase inversion. So with this process, we can use the asymmetric membranes, and this is the most commercial membranes prepared by the technique. So this is the immersion precipitation active example of your phase inversion technique. Okay. I'm coming to another very simple part to make this thin film, or I can say dense membrane in your laboratory very easily. So this is a solution cast method, and the solvent is this dichloromethane, CH2Cl2, and you can use any kind of material. And what is the example, what are the advantage over other methods? You can make a film as per your choice, as per your application. And here you can control the thickness of membrane very easily. So this upper part you can see, this is a Petri dish, and it is being floated on a mercury. So for a Petri dish, you can calculate the area very easily. So you know this formula, mass equal to volume into density. And volume, you can put it like area into thickness into density. So area pi r square Petri dish is fixed. Density of polymer is fixed. So here you can vary the thickness. Whatever the parameter of thickness you are using here, correspondingly you are getting the weight. So suppose if I want to make a 40 micrometer thick membrane, so pi r square fixed, density is fixed, only I put 40 micrometer thickness D. And correspondingly I will get the mass, I will weight the polymer, and then I dissolve in this solvent. And later on, once it is mixed, I will pour this liquid in this petri dish, and once it is evaporated, I can peel off this membrane of 40 micrometer from this petri dish. But please remember, this will be the dense membrane. It does not have any kind of porosity, and in such membrane, the porosity can be done by using some other methods. So the popular example is this track-edged membranes. Means we are creating the tracks, or we are creating a path in this membrane for the formation of pores. And why this track-edged membrane is so popular? Because here you can control the pore shape. Pore shape means you can make them cylindrical, you can make them conical, you can make them double conical, you can control the pore size from few nanometer to micrometer, and also you can control the pore density. Pore density means number of pores in an area. So how we can do it, and what are the process to create these channels, so that we can do this polymer modification by Swift heavy ions, SHI. And these facilities are available in Nuclear Science Center earlier, and now it is known as Inter-University Accelerator Center, IUSC New Delhi, and TIFR Mumbai. So they have this accelerator, and you can go there and you can use your polymer film for this ion bombardment or creating them porosity. So what ion beam can do it, they can change its physical and chemical properties. They can modify electrical and optical, surface wettability, and so on. But the main important area is formation of H-able damage. What is happening there? Okay. You know, this polymer is a long chain molecule. So you just imagine what happens if like a high speed particle can cross this polymer film. So these polymer chains, they are basically breaks. And what is the process here? So you can see like this is a polymer chain, and this is the energetic particle. They are crossing it. So means chain scissioning is there, chains are breaking, and again cross-linking with the neighbor chains. Ultimately, what is happening? The free volume inside a polymer is changing. And this is a simple picture that you can understand. This is the path of ion we called halo or track that is being created by this ion beam, and this is the damage that is being created by this ion beam. So this ion beam basically not like going straightly, it is creating a helical path, and these chains, they are bound loosely with this material, and this can be removed chemically. So this process is known as chemical etching. So change in polymer, that basically depends, of course, on the energy of ions. What is the energy of ion? Whether it is able to like cross this membrane or not. What is the mass of ion? What is the charge state? And what is the dose? Dose means number of ions per centimeter square. Okay. So this is a typical attachment that is available in IUC New Delhi. What is happening here? We are getting a ion beam, and this is a gold foil. So here this ion beam is scattered in this chamber. Here you can see the 3 part this side, 3 part this side, and this is the surface barrier detector. And here we have our samples, membranes. And these membranes, they are mounted at different angles, 6 degree, 12 degree, 18 degree, again 6, 12, 18, and 24 degree. So by Rutherford scattering, we can control the fluence. We know what is the number of ions exactly coming at 24 degree. So accordingly, we can fix the dose at 18, 12, and 6. So generally, we are having 10 to power 6 ions per centimeter square, 10 to power 7, 10 to power 8. So in a single beam line, we got 3 doses that are achieved at 6, 12, and 18 degree in a particular time, depending what is the current. But only problem, this is a huge chamber. So maintaining the vacuum and other process, it will take around 2 to 3 hours. And the radiation process, it will take only few minutes, maximum 3 to 4 minutes. Again, like when we are taking sample out, mounting another set of samples. So my sense is we are able to get few samples in 24-hour times by using such kind of attachment. Then another irradiation setup that is available in TFR Mumbai. So here we have another facility. So not scattering. Here the beam is scanning. So this is the polymer roll mounted here. So means beam is scanning over this film, and you are getting a single pore density or single dose membrane by using such kind of facility. Okay, this is for our earlier, and this is how this beam is being rolled by using this facility at TFR Mumbai. Okay, but what is happening finally? So as I told in my previous slide, by ion beam bombardment, you are creating the tracks. This is the ion beam path, and they are damaged around this track. And that you can remove chemically, so you will get the porous membrane. So latent tracks as a result of ion radiation. But when you are putting in chemical etching bath in a strong base NaOH, so this path is being removed chemically, so you are getting this porous structure. But if you are etching from one side, then you will get the structure like a cone. But when you are etching from both sides, initially it may be cylindrical or conical. Sorry, initially it may be conical, and later on it can be converted to cylindrical. How? So this is the track shape if you are using with the increasing rate, constant rate, and decreasing rate. So suppose if you are doing this etching from both sides, so just imagine this is the condition from this side and the same condition from this side. So when this vertex are opening, so it is a perfect combination of double cone, right? So there are 2 types of etching rate along the track or along the surface. Since it is having a damage, so this along the track rate is higher than the surface. And this is the example, or you can see the surface of membrane after the etching. This is the surface view. This is the cross sectional. So you can see your path or channel is from top to bottom. This is the single channel you can see. And now please try to remember the word pore density. This is the membrane that I am showing here. It have 10 to power 8 ions per centimeter square. Means this is the highest possible fluence with this ion beam, because you can see most of pores, they are interconnected. So if you want individual pore, then better to use the fluence below 10 to power 8. So better to use either 10 to power 6 or 10 to power 7. This is the conical nanopores, example of conical nanopores. It means one side opening is in order of micron and another side of opening is nanometer. Why this membrane and how we can prepare it? So this is again we can do by the chemical etching. What we can do it, in this part we can put the etchant, that is the NaOH, and here this stopping medium means some acidic medium. So here we generally put this 2-AmKCl and SCOH, formic acid, and this is the etching time. So initially you can see there is no variation in current. It means this channel is not connected, and once this opening is too large and connected to another chamber, there is sudden jump in current, so you have to stop here. So in this way you can get the conical nanopores. This is larger size and this is very smaller size. So this may be in micron and this may be in the range of nanometer. And such kind of conical nanopores, they have various application in biotechnology, like detection of this DNA. When there is no DNA, and if you are having this biasing, the current is almost same. And when this DNA is passing, you can see this blockage and current. And with this time, you can calculate what is the length of DNA that is passing through your membrane. And this is just for variation of voltage when you are used for the etching, how this pore shape is changing. And this is one very important part that I want to discuss. I have told you earlier, these are the synthetic membranes, polymers. Nothing is conducting in this polymer film. But if you see this current voltage characteristics, they are behaving and giving a diode-like behavior. They are showing the rectification, how it is possible and how we can control it and why it is happening. So you can see here, they have used different molarity or the pH. So by varying this pH or molarity, this rectification behavior can be controlled. Here you can see the different pH, so it can be controlled. But again, why we are seeing this diode-like behavior in a normal polymer film? So the answer is, when we are doing the process of chemical etching, so carboxylic group COOH is generated along the walls of these membranes, and this carboxylic group is responsible for such kind of charge, where you can see charge, or you can say the rectification process, and this can be controlled either by the pH or by the concentration. So if we want to like tune the rectifying process, if we like ion movement from this side to this side, this can be controlled by using this anode and anode, and you can control the flow of ions with this membrane from one side to another side. This is another kind of membrane, tubular form membranes. They are hollow fiber based on self-supported, capillary, self-supported, tubular membranes, again on, and there are various techniques that are being used for preparation of this membrane by dry weight spinning, melt spinning, and dry spinning. And you can, this is the SEM images for this tubular form of membrane, and they are again being used for this water purification part, but I'm not using such kind of membrane for my own application. And this is the another important part of this composite membranes. Here you can doing some modification or doing some engineering for your own application. So if we are making the composite membranes, means dense top layer, they are defect-free ultra thin or in porous support. Dense, no porosity, porous support means it is having some porous structure. So preparation methods may be by dip coating, spray coating, spin coating, polymerization, and plasma polymerization or the grafting. And composite membrane means dense layer on the porous substrate of different materials. Each layer can be optimized, and materials for selective layers are not limited. And I'm showing few examples of composite membrane in my next few slides. So this is the dip coating technique. So here what you can, this is typically dip coater available in our labs. So here you can do some programming. Here you can like fix your membrane, and in bottom you can put your solution where you want to dip this membrane. So it can use for the post treatment like cross-linking or heat treatment. And what is the main effects on coating or thickness? So just imagine like if you are having some solution here and your polymer film here. So by programming, you can down this your membrane in the solution. So means what is the dipping speed? Again, what is the dipping time? And what is the lifting speed? So it affect your thickness. Of course, what is the means concentration of the solution that you are using for the coating. But please remember, you are coating the both sides. Suppose if you are like dipping such kind of membrane in a solution, so means you are coating this face as well as this face. So, and if you want to like control the one side thickness, then you have to optimize this dip coating so that you can use like vertically on one side of coating only. And this is the SEM done for this coated film. So this is the porous support, and here this is the top layer that is being coated on this membrane. So dip coating, that is the state of polymers, glassy, rubbery, solvent, and you have to like optimize the condition according to your application. Like you have to use the good solvent, larger coil, poor solvent for polymer aggregation, entanglement during the operation, hydrophilic and hydrophobic support surfaces. So that time you have to change the nature of your membrane, hydrophilic or hydrophobic by plasma treatment, or you have to fill the pores when you are going to coat your membranes. These are the pore concentration, pore penetration, that the capillary force may cause pore penetration of solution, resistance increase due to the blocked pores, and so on. There are some methods that are avoid pore penetration. You can like pre-filling the pores, choose polymer to high molecular weight, choose support to smaller pores, and narrow size pore distribution. Spray coating. So this is the example that for this coating. So suppose you are putting your membrane here. So this surface of membrane can be coated by this spray coating techniques. This is the spin coating techniques. So means this is the support where you have your membrane, and this part is having vacuum. So basically it sucks and fix your membrane on the support. And here you have your solvent, and then you are giving it different RPM. So you can optimize your polymer solution once concentration is fixed, like up to what RPM and what thickness combination. So you can coat the upper layer of your polymer film with another solvent from few nanometer to micrometer by using this spin coater. This is available manually and again programmable. So once you know your solution, so you can program your solution, or you can test like 1000 RPM gives 10 nanometer and so on. So you can do it your own. This is a plasma polymerization that can be used for this composite membrane, and this plasma is also used for changing the nature of pores from hydrophilic to hydrophobic. Maybe in last 5 or 10 minutes, I will show you another example of this composite membrane that we did in our lab. So we use this multi-wall carbon nanotubes. So, and then we mixed in our solution of this polymer. So this is polycarbonate polymers, and this is MWCNT combination. So what we did, this is a random multiple carbon nanotubes, and once this solvent is evaporated, we can use this membrane for some gas separation application. But please remember, this is the random orientation. Then what we did, we apply some magnetic field, and we put our Petri dish in between this magnetic field. So once solvent is evaporated, then we removed it. Since there is this solid state, so it cannot go left and right. And this most of CNT, they are aligned perpendicular in a polymer matrix. So these are the aligned multi-wall carbon nanotube in a polymer. Then what we did, we put it some this palladium nanoparticle deposition in this CNTs. So we used two kind of carbon nanotubes, one that normally, and another carbon nanotubes, they are basically functionalized and with the palladium nanoparticles. So this CNT is without palladium, this CNT with palladium. And then we did some characterization for this Raman and FGR and other things. And finally, this is the palladium nanoparticle synthesis. So I'm not around, you can see the particle size, that is 6 or plus nanometer, 6 or 7 nanometer. And these 6 nanometer particles, they are within the nanotubes. And this is the random orientation. And here you can see some dots. So basically this is the opening of nanotubes in the surface. And here we use this palladium nanoparticle also. So this white part, basically, they are the palladium over the surface. So, okay. So what is happening during this gas transport? Because this is a dense membrane, so we follow this solution diffusion model. And this is the process. Like here we are using this polymer membrane, and here we are giving the pressure of gas, and this is the downstream pressure that is going to flow meter, and where we are measuring the flow of gases. These are two cells that we have used for this gas permeability measurements. This is manually we are operating it, and this is the program controlled for the gas separation. And you see the results. And so this is the trackage membrane. So what is happening here, as soon as we are increasing the time means the pore is opening. Pore is too large, so every gas is passing through comfortably, means permeability is increasing. Gas permeation is fast. But at the same time, if you see the selectivity of these gases, it is losing. It means around 1 minute etching time, this is very selective, but after 7 minutes, there is no selectivity. And it is true for other membranes also. We have tried with making them blends. So this is polycarbonate polysulfone, different ratio, but you see here it is higher for 1:3 ratio, ion incidence side from 5.6, ion emergence 2.9, because this is the asymmetric membrane. We tried with coating them by metal. So this is the titanium coated membrane. So most of pores, they are covered when we did the coating, and the gas permeability is very poor. This is for the large area that I have shown you this TIFR setup. So you can see the etching time. So when only irradiation has been done, so you see the selectivity of hydrogen over carbon dioxide is 4.4. But as soon as we go the maximum 45-minute time, the selectivity is 2.89. It means the permeability is increasing with the etching time, but at the same time, selectivity is losing. Once pores are opened enough, we are not able to control the selective absorption or the selective permeation of a particular gas. And this is for this the crystalline random one. When it aligned, it means the CNT, they are giving the better path for the diffusion in a polymer. This is again functionalized and aligned. They are better membrane, and this way we are getting 7.95 the selectivity for this carbon composite membranes. Okay, so this is the gas permeability of CNT and other membranes. So here I have to stop, but this is of selectivity. So how we can make a membrane that have highly permeable and highly selective? Then there is a possibility if I use the concept of functionalization. Functionalization of functionalized membranes, it means I'm going to create some functional group in the pore walls, and again we are giving some charge to these nanoparticles, so that these nanoparticles gas mixture, one kind of gas molecules, they are being absorbed within these particles and another will go out. So in next part, I will show you this functionalization and this block-polymer based membrane parts. I think I should stop here, and I'm happy to take questions from or queries.
Thank you, sir. Now we go through the question sections. Revati Ambekar asked that what is the use of Knudsen diffusion mechanism?
Okay, so I have shown you three mechanisms for this gas separation part. So just a minute. Okay, so this is for the diffusion part, this is for the molecular sieving part, and this is the solution diffusion. So here what is happening, the pores, they are too large. Means you cannot control the flow based on the size. Means the porous, they are too much porous. So if like I'm using two gases, one hydrogen and another carbon dioxide, it means both gases are passing through this membrane. So we are not control the flow of one particular gas. Another model is molecular sieving. So here what is happening, we are having less size. It means only one type of gases that is going out and another can be blocked here. And this is the solution. If you are going to fill your membrane liquid, so possibility that liquid is going through in your pores, or you are covering the membrane. So then we have to check to make them hydrophilic or hydrophobic surface to make the composite another layer of polymers. So means surface battery in terms of whether it's hydrophilic or hydrophobic.
So, sir, what is H rate?
Okay, etching rate means just in simple words to removing anything. So I have told you like during the irradiation, one is the ion path and it is going helically. So means there are damaged area along the path. So when you are putting this NaOH, so it means the damaged or loosely bound material that is being removing out from the polymer. So etching rates, if you are doing this if chemically, then the concentration, normality, like 1 NaOH, 2 NaOH, 6 NaOH, 10 NaOH. So it will speed up your the etching rate. Or if you are using voltage, then 1 volt, 2 volt, 3 volt, 5 volt. So in which rate you are etching your membrane. So this is the etching rate.
Okay, sir. Another query is that what is the difference between functionalized and non-functionalized carbon nanotubes?
Okay, functionalized means they are having some creating some functional group in the carbon nanotubes so that they can attach some another material. So we are creating either positive or negative charge in this CNTs and then attaching some nanoparticle. And non-functionalized means I am using as received CNTs for the application.
Okay, sir. So another query is that explain hydrogen separation.
Okay, hydrogen separation means I have told one slides that the kinetic diameter of hydrogen and other gases, they are very close to each other. So filter means you cannot say like if one is very small, another very large. So here filtration is not based on the size because size is too much close. Then we have to make some mechanism so that hydrogen go faster and other can be trapped or vice versa. So I have tried to trap the hydrogen in this palladium or platinum nanoparticles and rest gases are going. So in this way, hydrogen is being trapped in this nanoparticle and later on we are releasing by giving us temperature. So we are separating hydrogen from the other gas mixture.
Thank you, sir. Next query is that why nanomembranes develop negative electric charge?
So this nanomembrane because of the chemical etching. So when you are etching this ion track, so here I told we have carboxylic group.
Sir, another query is that why the mercury liquid on bottom of the Petri dish was used in solution casting membrane.
This is just to have uniform thickness because this is a highly dense material, mercury is available. So if you are floating your another Petri dish, so you will find your uniform thickness over this membrane to make a uniform thickness.
Okay, sir. Another query is that why ionic bombardment can be produce symmetric pore size and shapes throughout the surface.
Okay, so ion bombardment, they can be used.
Okay.
Symmetric in the sense because this ion path that is 1 to 10 nanometer that is fixed from one side to another side. So this you can ask them symmetric pore size.
Okay, sir. Another query is that can you explain how COOH is responsible for conduction in polymers?
Okay. So this is basically a charge because polymer is a neutral things now. So you cannot expect this. You are your cation or anion moment you are watching because you have giving a power supply of 2 or 5 volt is there. So when your positive ion is passing through this membrane or porosity, COOH. So that will affect the movement of ions. That's why you are getting this diode-like behavior. So this is this way you can understand the rectification.
Okay, sir.
And the kinetic diameter means they are gas kinetic diameter is very similar. So like, please try to understand this is not a difference. Like if I say one is 1 nanometer, another is 10 micrometer. So difference is not too much large. Difference is very less. So this way, the best mechanism to explain the gas permeability results is the solution diffusion, not the other models.
Another query is that please explain trade-off between permeability and selectivity.
Trade-off relation means if I am going to increase the permeability, then selectivity is losing, or if I am going to make them higher selective, then permeability is losing. So this is the trade-off relation between permeability and selectivity. In case of tracheous membrane, when I have aged the whole path, like up to 40 minutes, then our channel is like cylindrical is available. So it have high porosity, but at the same time, it loses the selectivity. So can we do something like when your membrane is highly permeable, it can become highly selective. So this is the challenge between permeability and selectivity, and this polymer membrane suffers for this trade-off relation.
Okay, sir. Why we use hydrophilic as a solvent in deep coating?
It is not like use hydrophilic. You can change the nature of membrane. You can make them hydrophilic to hydrophobic by plasma treatment. So nature of membrane you can choose first, and dip coating means how to make a composite membrane. So there are like different process. Either you dip coating, spray coating, or spin coating. So there are different processes that can be used to making the composite membrane. But in spray coating of composite membrane, you can not control the thickness of upper layer, because when I told you in dip coating, you have three parameters. Means what are the dipping speed, what are the dipping time, and what is the lifting speed. So in this way, you can control what is the thickness of the deposited layer. And in spin coating, you have control over the RPM. But in case of spray coating, there is less control to controlling the thickness of deposited layer. So people prefer to use spin coating for making the composite membrane or dip coating.
Okay, sir. Explain spray coating of composite membrane.
I think I have already covered this spray coating part right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we can go on further query.
Okay, sir. So there is no how defects in multi-wall carbon nanotubes affects the pores in polymer matrix.
Okay. So polymer means this is a long chain molecules, but it has some free volume, right? Now you are creating something in polymer, means you are depositing something in matrix. So in case when it is a randomly aligned, means gases is not getting the path to cross the membrane. But when you are aligned them perpendicular, so gases have path to diffuse easily along the membrane. This way you are getting higher permeability in case of aligned CNTs.
So another query is what is used for pre-filling to avoid pore penetration in deep coating?
It depends on your what kind of solvent you are using for your polymer solution. So depending on your polymer solution, you can use the filler so that it cannot be mixed up. So means this is not a single recipe for all kind of membrane.
Sir, So another query is how to clean the mercury liquid after finishing of the membrane casting.
Please remember, I'm not in touch with the mercury because this is the one bath that is having mercury. Then we have another bath of this petri dish. So your membrane is not indirectly touched with this mercury. Only this glass of your petri dish, this is in touch with the mercury. So no need to touch the mercury. You have to only peel off the membrane from your petri dish. So we are not going to touch the mercury.
Sir. So another query is that what is the application of Knudsen diffusion?
Knudsen diffusion generally for the larger pore size, if you see microfiltration or maybe in ultrafiltration, so it is used there, but it is not very useful for this nanofiltration membrane.
Okay, sir. There is no further queries. So thank you very much for explaining the fundamentals of these functional polymeric membranes, and thank you for all the participants. Next session will be start from 3 o'clock, and now we are end this session here.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kamlendra sir. So